I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
I know previously on the show you've really been adamant about the fact that you don't want to be married.
Yeah.
Right? But did you see I was watching the Andrew Tate interview with Candace Owens, and in it she asked him, would you ever consider getting married? And he says, if you asked me 10 years ago, I would say no, but now I'm not opposed to it. So I was wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Okay, it's interesting. So when it comes to Andrew Tate, first off, he says 10 years ago, but he did an interview on Your Mom's House podcast where, and this must have been, it was within the past 2 years he did this interview, I think. And he was as recently as 2 years ago, very much against marriage for some of the same reasons that I've articulated on this show. But so your question to me is, why am I against marriage? Or
yeah, I guess, are you persuaded at all by, he seems to have been persuaded away, because when he was giving his answers, I was like, oh my God, that sounds exactly like what Brian says for all of the reasons that you give for why you're against marriage.
Sure.
But then he says to Candace that he has changed his mind and now would be open to it. So I'm wondering if maybe you've found your thoughts changing at all.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think I can say this about Andrew Tate is he was an atheist and then he became Christian and then he converted, or I think they call it reversion. Are you familiar with that? Well, in any case, he reverted to Islam and he became a Muslim. And I think him getting very much involved with religion has reshaped his view on marriage. But I don't think that dismisses some of the concerns he previously raised or some concerns that I've raised in the past. So, I actually, it's not so much that I have a problem with marriage, it's that I have a problem with divorce. So marriage is wonderful.
Yeah, that's true. It's
divorce
a risk. You'd have to
but obviously
make a good choice.
But obviously if you get married, one of the potential negative outcomes from that would be divorce. Now, from a religious perspective, I don't object to divorce at all. But when it comes to, most marriages, you go to the courthouse, you go to the state, you get a marriage license. That gives you certain benefits, but I'm very much against it because in divorce, you have alimony. If there's a divorce, let's say whoever's the breadwinner, you got to pay for your own lawyer. You got to pay for their lawyer. It's just very financially risky. It's very expensive. And alimony comes in. We have Kevin Costner, who we're in Santa Barbara. They're in the Santa Barbara courthouse because the divorce is being overseen by the county of Santa Barbara. They just awarded his wife I don't know the exact number, $150,000. This isn't exact, guys, don't quote me, but around $150,000 a month in child support. And you hear all these stories of these, celebrities. Obviously, I know celebrities aren't perfect examples, but you hear, or just even wealthy people, and they get destroyed in marriage. The alimony, the contentious divorce, you got to pay for both the lawyers. It's absurd. Do you
think if you fell in love with a girl who really wanted to get married, maybe because she was religious, maybe she's not religious and marriage is just important to her, do you think you would consider it, or do you think still, it's still a hard no matter what? There's no open door. There's no open to it, no matter who the partner is. Because I'm assuming you're not foolish. You're not going to marry any woman. If you were to get married, it would be with someone you're very certain about and think would be a good choice. But basically, are you open to it at all, especially if it was important to a woman you cared about?
I mean, it would.
Or is it just you think it's a deal breaker? Well,
me caring about a woman does nothing to remedy my concerns when it comes to divorce. I don't want to 100% rule out marriage, but this woman would have to be so compelling. I would have to be so sure.
The largest labia
I was about
ever.
to say the same thing.
Oh, is that what you were?
No, I have something else to say, but I was about to say that too. I guess my question would be.
I'll answer your question, but go ahead.
Sorry, I was just about to say, what about if you got a prenup? Because
Okay. Yep.
That could
Prenups.
take away some of the financial aspect of the divorce and kind of keep
Sure.
you in the clear if that happened. What if you fell in love with a woman and she was okay with doing that? Would that be something then that you might be more inclined to consider?
Okay, so as far as the prenup goes, no prenup is going to save you if the woman is motivated enough, because all she has to say is, well, I was coerced into it, and, I thought he would, not want to, stay with, whatever. So you can make up a whole bunch of stuff. Here's the thing. Kevin Costner, who had a prenup, ironclad prenup, had lawyers review it. It wasn't just let's download a prenup from internet. No, Kevin Costner had prenups drafted up by probably the most competent lawyers in California. Maybe, I don't know if they were in Santa Barbara, and it doesn't really matter. And his wife is challenging the prenup in court. So even if there is a prenup, and even if the prenup is rock solid, there's still an opening for a woman to challenge the prenup, and that opens up, okay, cool, let's litigate it. I still have to pay for your attorney, so now I'm paying for my attorney to defend the prenup, which we agreed to, and I have to pay for your attorney who's litigating this. Basically, with Kevin Costner, very wealthy actor, he's got like $10 million, $15 million property in Montecito, just outside of Santa Barbara. The prenup said that if she initiated a divorce, she'd have to move out of the family house. She would get $1.5 million just immediately, but that would be the extent of any sort of alimony payments, I think. So right now she's just going after child support, so the kids can keep up their lives to the tune of $150,000 a month. So prenups constantly get challenged, and sometimes even thrown out. We had this happen with Dr. Dre. He had a prenup. Prenups are not ironclad, and like I said, if you are motivated enough as a woman, you can just. A prenup is not going to save you financially if she's motivated enough.
Or he's motivated.
Sure.
Let's.
Well, sure,
It
but
could
you're
be either way.
no. Sure, but you're asking.
We are talking
you're
about
asking
you. Yeah.
about my specific, and I wouldn't marry a man. So, but I mean, I would just also say you just never sign a contract with someone who is rewarded for breaking it. So, marriage is a contract. Again, I don't object to it from a religious perspective. Like getting married, cool. That's wonderful. However, and I kind of always say this, but if your wife decides to divorce you, she's not going to turn to her religion to help preside over the divorce. She's going to go to the state, and the state presides ultimately over the financial components of your marriage. So this idea that, okay, we'll just marry a really religious woman. Well, okay. When you get a divorce, she's not going to God. She's not going to her pastor. She's not going to her priest. She's not going to the church. She's going to the state.
You're saying when, though. So I think if you are open to the possibility of divorce, you shouldn't get married in the first place. So I guess my assumption here is you're going into, it's a hard no on marriage because there's the possibility of divorce. She could divorce me and then the risk is too much. I honestly just don't think, like, if you are open to the idea of divorce, I don't think you should be getting married. I think you should be doing the coupling.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to reel you guys in here in a sec. Would you want your doctor to disclose to you, let's say you're about to undergo a procedure, a surgery, would you want your doctor to disclose to you the potential complications of undertaking the procedure? In fact, they're legally compelled to disclose. Yeah. But I assume you'd want your doctor to tell you, well, there's a 10% chance of this. You're going to have X, Y, Z. Yeah. There's a chance of, it depends on the fucking procedure. You could have whatever.
I get where you're going. It just comes down to picking a good partner. So if you're thinking of, I'm assuming here you would only ever get married if you genuinely, this isn't just because, like, you're like, oh, I got no other, like, I'm bored, like, I don't want to be lonely. I'm going to do this because I'm just, like, afraid to, like, I don't want to be not married. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I'm assuming you would only marry someone if you knew for certain their values, you knew them very well, you knew they themselves were not open to the possibility of divorce.
Sure. But let me ask you a question. How many people who do get married think that exact same way about their partner. How many people who get married think, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this person? How many people think when they are getting married, yeah, we're probably going to be divorced? Like most people, I assume, going
Honestly,
into marriage.
I think the possibility of divorce is very present to the majority of people nowadays who are getting married. Think of like Imrata, who Candace mentioned. She's, the idea of making it trendy to be divorced by 30. If divorce is normalized, what I'm saying is open to the possibility of divorce. Clearly, the majority of people are very open to the possibility of divorce. If it's a trendy thing or super normalized to get divorced, is what I mean.
Are you planning to have children or no?
Good
I'd
question.
like to have children.
Do you think that being in a 2-parent household that's like married is better than like a non-married household?
I suppose there are certain like tax benefits, I guess, if you're married that are, in my view, fairly minimal. I guess because you could file your taxes a little differently. The only other benefit that I see is when it comes to your estate. If you die and you're married, I'm not an estate attorney, so I don't know, but it's not clear to me. Let me paint a scenario for everybody. I know I'll get you in, and I'll get you in here in just a sec. Let me paint a scenario, right? So you got two couples. One gets married, one doesn't. They stay together for their entire lives. They both have 3 children. There's no infidelity. They're monogamous. What's the difference?
Yeah, no, I don't think, what is it?
Anybody? What's the, like, I don't see the difference in term, like, if we're speaking on
Yeah, no,
the
there isn't
benefits,
one.
but there's often this argument of, well, marriage is beneficial to society, but it's not clear. Like, if you could basically replicate exactly what you have in a marriage, stay together for the rest of your life, have kids. You don't need to be married to have kids. You don't need to be married to stay together for the rest of your life and be monogamous and love each other. So it's not clear to me, like, what is the benefit for marriage besides tradition and for religious reasons?
I agree.
Based.
Are you wanting to have like a wedding? Like, not saying like to get married and sign a contract.
Waste of money.
But
Yeah, you think
Waste
this
of
guy's
money.
spending money
Agree.
on
Party.
Waste of money.
I don't know.
One day you're gonna actually get married. Like, that's mine.
Because I feel like the only
if
kind
she's
of woman
rich,
that you're going to be interested in,
prenup.
Brian, is going to be, I feel like the only type of woman you would feel happy settling for, not just settling for, but being with, is a woman who takes things like marriage. Like, I just don't see you with a woman who's like atheist and wouldn't want to get married or like something like that.
I'm
Unless
not
you
sure
see that
though.
for
You
You
yourself.
can be religious
I could be
and not
wrong.
want to get married.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
religious and not want to get married.
I
Anything
don't,
like that.
but, okay, so this kind of, like, if I can almost tie this into promiscuity, virginity, low body count a little bit, but so you're saying that the type of woman that I would be attracted to is likely to be religious.
Yeah, I just feel like,
I
mean,
disagree, because, okay, well, let's say one of my standards or preferences or
I mean,
boundaries.
maybe I just don't know you that well, but.
Maybe you don't, but
Probably not.
well, I think this idea that like conservative women or religious women have some like exclusive claim to virginity or non-promiscuity is kind of fallacious and
Salacious.
no, I think it's erroneous, because I think you can be a liberal or moderate or apolitical woman or even an atheist and have desirable traits and values, at least when it comes to like non-promiscuity, not having a low body count, or even being a virgin. Now, do I think it's maybe the case that liberal women compared to conservative women, they're more likely to engage, like, be
I would just say
promiscuous?
it's more likely.
Probably, but then there are a fair amount of conservative women who they be fucking too. So, but I would say generally probably conservative women are probably lean more towards like non-promiscuity, virginity, low body count, etc. So I don't think, like, just bringing it back to what you said, I don't think that in order for me to find the type of girl that I want, she necessarily has to be
Yeah, no,
conservative
definitely not.
or
It's
religious.
just more likely. It's just honestly, especially today, I just genuinely think it's just more likely that she'll probably end up being religious and then probably care to get married. It's just like my guess.
I mean, a
Because
lot of religious women, though, they got a past.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying all girls who are religious or conservative are not promiscuous. I'm not saying all girls that are liberal or atheist are sluts. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's more. I mean, I've just found this personally in my own life. Like the closer I've gotten the more religious I've become over time, the more like obvious and clear it is that promiscuity is bad and doesn't serve
Sure.
me in the ways that maybe I felt like I was taught growing up.
Yeah, it might be easier for me to find a partner that matches or meets my criteria or whatever, who's religious. A religious woman might be more likely to fall within my criteria.